It's your boy, Professor Cho. Welcome to the Airstream Studios Chickamauga location. And no, this is not Trey beside me. This is my sister, Kirby. Say hello, Kirby.
Hello, Kirby.
Now, this is your first time ever doing anything on film or recorded, with me at least. Like, you've been in a couple commercials of dads or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, you made your first television debut. I guess you only have one television debut, but you made your television debut on HGTV about
That is true.
15 years ago or something like that, which was my parents' house was on If Walls Could Talk.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's funny because I had just started doing stand-up, and so of course my dream was to be on TV. And then we get told we're going to be on If These Walls Could Talk, and they come to our house and they film my entire family doing things, and they ended up cutting my only scene.
Yeah.
So everybody in my family who didn't give a crap about being on television got on, and I didn't. Me and Kirby used to also run a bakery together called Laura Lou's.
Yes.
And the reason that this show is called Little House of the Dragon. It is the first official Puttin On Airs spinoff show, and we're going to talk about, you guessed it, House of the Dragon. And the reason that I wanted my sister to do this with me is, and I think that you would admit this, you are probably the biggest deep diver into television shows of anyone you know, correct?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Nobody loves a fandom like I do.
Right.
I want to immerse myself into the world 1,000,000%.
Yeah. I mean, you're like very active on Downton Abbey Facebook groups.
Yes. But right now, I'm actually currently on pause in my Downton Abbey group because I'm telling you, there's a lot of 70-year-old people from like Michigan that just don't agree with me.
On what?
On just literally any just theory. I mean, I just read into everything.
What's a recent argument you've had with a 70-year-old Michigan woman on Downton Abbey? Or is it a man?
The man. There's a man. Literally, there's an episode where Rose has her, technically it's her, debutante ball.
How do you feel about debutante balls morally?
Morally?
Because me and Trey have talked about this a lot.
I mean, as the Southern girl in me is like, I want to put a dress on. Like, I want to feel pretty. But like the feminist in me is like, it feels
like cattle being put out to auction.
Oh yeah,
in a way,
sure.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and I feel that way about like beauty pageants too.
Yeah, right.
But also there's still that little girl and
right. Of course.
Yeah, but the argument was, it's a common term to call it a coming out ball because you're coming out into society. So in my lengthy post, I said, the question was, what was your favorite episode, Downton Abbey? And that's my favorite episode because they're in London. We got a Prince of Wales, cameo. It's cool. So I said, it's her coming out ball. Well, Joe Schmo from Michigan's like, she ain't gay. And I'm just like, I mean, I know, fam. Like, I ain't saying that. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Of course not. Not a thing wrong with that.
But he just got into it with me, and it doesn't bring out a good side of me.
Right.
And so I'm just taking like a little emotional mental break from the Facebook group.
It's so stupid that like not only did they think that that's what you thought it meant, but that they thought there was ever any scenario in which case back in the 20s and 30s they would throw a parade for you being gay.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, now they do throw a parade for you being gay, and it's very cool, and I've been to it in Chelsea, New York. It was wonderful, but like...
Yeah, it's... Also, I would get annoyed on there because I just felt like people just assumed they knew more than me, and I know they don't.
Yeah, no, they don't.
And I know they don't.
You've seen every episode of Downton Abbey probably at least 15 times.
They go outside to parks and do activities. I don't. So of course I know more about what's going on basically with any show.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
No, it's true.
But hey, I'm Kirby, guys.
Yep, this is my sister Kirby, the funniest person in my family. So obviously, if you haven't gotten the memo yet, I know this sounds like an insane thing that I have to mention, but I do have to mention it because there are some people who see that you're doing a podcast about a show and still for some reason don't think that there's going to be spoilers. Like they'll go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you told." If you haven't watched the most recent House of the Dragon, which in the case of this podcast is the pilot, The Heir of the Dragons, go back and watch that before you listen to this. There's also going to, of course, be some spoilers from Game of Thrones at large, the entire show. So I would suggest that if you haven't watched that, probably do that, or just decide that you don't care that you're going to hear spoilers.
There's so many things in Game of Thrones, just actual Game of Thrones, that we could say something and you'll probably forget.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many details.
For sure. Dude,
you probably will forget that, oh, yeah, they said that in that episode.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be some light Downton Abbey spoilers. Sorry. Yeah, we can't control it.
Tie it in to anything, I'm gonna. Yeah,
for sure, and I want you to. That's why I brought you on the team. Mm-hmm. So, again, if you haven't watched the most recent episode of The House of Dragon, go do that. And speaking of Game of Thrones in general, of course, this is the first spin-off show or prequel, however you want to call it, of Game of Thrones. And I think that it was, met with a little bit of trepidation from a lot of fans just because of the sour taste that was in everybody's mouth from how season 8 of Game of Thrones ended. Where were you at on the finale of Game of Thrones?
Nothing annoys me more than the build up, the character arc that they were working on. To me, I mean, think about it. Season 1, Jaime kills a child.
Mm-hmm. First episode.
Then by season 8, we're pulling for him in every aspect of his life. So in other words, the effort that was put in to his character just to say, nah, we're going to send him back to his sister.
Right.
I saw it as lazy.
Yeah.
I saw it as only wanting shock value.
Right.
When.
Like it's the writers going, sure, this would be better, but it's what they think we're going to do, and we have to surprise them.
Exactly. And I mean, don't get me started on Danny. Or actually, we're doing a podcast. Get me started on Danny.
Please go ahead.
I thought it was ridiculous because, I mean, in a way, yes, it's tying her back to the Mad King.
All of that made sense.
It did make sense. But her whole shtick, I mean, she was so progressive, caring about the everyday people. Like that, she was truly wanted to be a queen of the people.
Right.
Instead of just like, have her coming out ball.
Right.
And then just for her to be like, I'm going to burn y'all up. Like, that just didn't make sense to me.
Well, it didn't make sense in the context of it happening that quick. I think that, George R.R. Martin wanted there to be 10 seasons. And if there had been 10 seasons and they had started her descent in season 8 and then built it for 2 seasons, I think it makes sense. Again, just in a vacuum, the ancestor of the Mad King going mad, like, of course, I buy that. That makes sense. But it's just everything went from boom to what?
Yeah.
And so but again, I'm the type of person that, like, I'm not going to let one. Now, granted, it was the whole season, and you could argue some of season 7. I'm not going to let one bad season make me go, boo, boo, one of the greatest shows in the world.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that either because, I mean, I'm just going to choose to be positive.
I'm a fan. I like things. And, like, I don't even really, like, I was going to ask you your opinion, but, like, I don't even like, even though I definitely feel that season 8 sucked, I don't even really like to say that because, like, I try not to be a negative person when it comes to art and stuff, and mainly because I'm a person who makes it, and so I know how difficult. Now I don't know how difficult making Game of Thrones is, but like all I know
evidently lighting is very difficult.
Very difficult, yeah.
Very difficult. I know that's one hard thing.
That's a little behind the scenes. We've been in here for like 5 hours, and we still definitely don't have it lit right.
Yeah,
we tried.
I just literally Game of Thrones, which people said it about House of Dragon episode 1, but definitely the fight scene last season of Game of Thrones just. I remember we were over here. We literally were like, is the TV adjusted right? I couldn't see nothing. So yeah, lighting definitely an issue.
Yeah, but again, I'm just a huge fan, and I don't like to. If there's a movie or a TV show that I really don't like, I just choose not to talk about it. Yeah. I don't want to pile on. But like, we're in good company with season 8 of Game of Thrones. I think even the people that worked on it
brought America together.
For sure, it really did. In a moment when we kind of needed it.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. So anyways, that's where we left off Game of Thrones. And now we are at the prequel, The House of the Dragon, which is going to reunite us with the family. Well, not reunite us. This is us being with them for the first time. The Targaryens.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us a quick overview from your... I know you can fire off a quick overview of this episode. The pilot, which is called...
Heirs of the Dragon.
Heirs of the Dragons. The Heirs of the Dragons.
I was about to say House of Dragon. I thought it was amazing, which that's the general consensus with everyone.
How many dragons out of 5 dragons would you give it? That's going to be our very unique rating system.
I mean, I'll tell you, I think 4.5 dragons, and I'll tell you the reason I didn't give it 5. And maybe we're going to get this character. I felt like it was lacking like a Tyrion.
Yeah.
It needed just a little bit of humor in there.
Yeah,
Because,
right.
I mean, what the first episode of Game of Thrones, he's just at a brothel.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean...
No, there
which, I mean, we got the brothel scenes.
Right.
But there needed to be just a little bit of humor, in my opinion. But, I mean... Besides that, 4.5. That was the only
reason.
Thing.
Yeah,
only thing.
Just not enough levity. And yeah, I agree,
maybe we're going to be introduced to that character next week.
I mean, surely, because, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm not saying like, oh, just this whole show is just a carbon copy of how they did the other one. You do have the characters in this that sort of give you the vibes of Game of Thrones, like for instance, Matt Smith, strong Jaime Lannister vibes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we even have him at the beginning of the show sitting on the Iron Throne the way that Jaime Lannister was sitting on the Iron Throne. I mean, Jaime Lannister was not like, you know, he wasn't an heir and he wasn't like trying to actually get to the throne, but he was behind his sister who wanted all that stuff. You've got the king played by, what's the king's name? Oh, Lord, are we going to have to edit this later?
It's a P. It's a
Don't
P.
you have it in front of you?
I was thinking of the actor's name.
No. Oh, yeah, it's Patty Harrington. Yeah.
Viserys.
Yeah,
Viserys.
He's giving me sort of a mixture of Ned Stark in that he does seem like he wants to do the right thing, but also like Ned Stark, where he's kind of stupid about the way that he does it.
Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon's just love child.
Yes, exactly.
Honestly.
Which again, this is not a slide on the show. I think that's great. Like we love those types of characters, and also it's immediately setting up a show that is, hey, it's the whole show is about getting to the throne. Yeah, that's what made us love the first one.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can be the quarterback.
No, not everybody can be the quarterback.
No, I mean, honestly, they can't.
So the show opens up. We see King Viserys, and everyone is talking about. He's talking about an heir. His wife is with child, and she expresses to him, and they did a wonderful job of exposition in this show where, obviously television shows are difficult. A pilot's insanely more difficult because you can't, like, that's why the sequel of an action movie is always usually better than the first one, because they can just jump right in.
Yeah.
You don't have to establish any of these people.
Yeah.
Here we go.
That's why that 4.5 dragon rating was honestly pretty good.
It's really good. It's really good because like nobody usually, like, I won't say nobody, but like it's rare when you're rewatching something, you just want to watch a certain episode that anybody ever goes back to, like, just the pilot.
Yeah.
Like the only pilot that I consider one of the episodes or one of the show's best episodes is probably Cheers. I think the pilot's amazing. It stands alone. It's awesome. But he's talking about his heir. His wife is with child. She is letting everybody know, like, hey, by the way, we've tried this 5 times in 10 years, and it hasn't worked. So maybe don't get your hopes up. And also there's a little of like, and I'm going to need you to not think of me as less than a woman if I can't get this done for you. And he doesn't seem like the type of dude that is going to do that. Because, like, you know, Henry VIII, who, of course, Game of Thrones is based on the War of the Roses, and so George R.R. Martin is familiar with a lot of those characters. Henry VIII would, like, if his wife gave him a girl, bye, see ya, cut your head off, and that's your fault, which we later found out through science that the sex of the baby is often determined by the man, so if you're having a bunch of girls, that's really on you. But he doesn't seem like he's going to be the whole, like, off with her head if she doesn't give me an heir. But you know, she keeps telling me, she's like, we don't. There, I think one line was like, "I'm sorry, but there's no way for this baby to magically grow unless it already has one."
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
But because she can tell he really wants this, because if this baby is not a man, then we're going to have to pass the torch to his brother, Matt Smith, who is Damon. She's just so much better at names than me. And because what's the other option besides him? Who's the other person?
Rhaenyra.
Well, you can't give it to a woman.
No.
You know, that's another thing I'd like to point out. This is the first time I've had female guests on other podcasts, but I've never actually had a podcast with a woman. I bet you there's a lot of my fans who are like, thank God, finally. So here she is. Hear her roar.
Roar, baby.
So they're like, no, they can't have a woman because there's never been one, and they're like, well, yeah, just because there's no precedent doesn't mean. How do you make precedent for something? You do it for the first time, right? They're also having a tournament in this pilot episode, which I don't remember if in Game of Thrones the pilot episode was the tournament. Was that the tournament?
No, it wasn't the tournament. The tournament episode.
That's when the mountain shows up for the first time, right?
They ended up getting another actor to play him, and that's one of my
pet peeves. It's like, just kill him off. You can't have another person.
Yeah, and also, like, what was the first one doing? Climbing Everest? Like, you didn't want to come back. Like, that's literally the way I thought. Like,
yeah, this is Game of Thrones, bro.
Yeah, and it's not like it was like, I can't get my words out. That's the way I see it.
Yeah,
but
right.
What do you mean?
So first, through the first act of this show, give us your breakdown on it after everything I've just said.
The whole baby situation just really upset me.
As a woman,
which I feel like we all, when we're watching this show, we don't need to look at it through the lens of
today.
Yeah. This is a universe, a world where brothers and sisters bang
all the time.
It's a different world.
Yeah. So aside from England in the past, where that never happened.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm trying to not look at it through that lens, but I mean, we can't help it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I'm watching Game of Thrones so many times, I go, well, you know, back then, that's just how and I'm like, well, this isn't back then.
Yeah.
This isn't, because it just, to me, it's like, this is old England.
You kind of compare it to like medieval times,
of course.
You know, but the whole baby situation, literally, it got me. Them at the Grand Maester, whatever, asking him what he wanted to do, when she literally was 1,000,000% coherent of what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, screaming.
Screaming. It's not like the woman was passed out, couldn't answer questions. She literally could say, I want this or I want that. And it just wasn't even a thought to ask her. And that really made me mad.
But you say we can't look at it through the lens of like our society, but like, dude, that 100%, I could see even up until like the 60s in America being a thing where they go to the dad and be like, hey, you got to make this decision. And he wouldn't be like, well, let's see what she wants. Because I promise you, most of the time, the woman, I mean, this is just my personal opinion, is going to be like, save me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. I literally was just sitting there thinking, like, I feel like fights.
Don't take the girl.
Fights happened in households after this episode.
Yeah.
Because there were women that were like, so.
Yeah. What would you do?
Were you going to save me?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was picking a fight in my head.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Already, which surprisingly, it never happened.
Your husband's smarter than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just doesn't listen to what I say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily he just didn't hear you give him that ultimatum or whatever.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Sure, baby, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that was very upsetting. But you had a good theory. The forced C-section, which just was terrible.
Well,
and also saw somebody on Facebook. It's so wrong, but great. I love it. I saw someone on Facebook call the baby Cesarean Targaryen, and that literally just sent me over the edge. I just thought that was so funny. So funny.
Yeah.
But you had a theory about the blood stain in the bed.
Yeah. I sent you that picture, and you agree with me. I saw it the first time we were watching it at your house, and I was like, is that blood stain in the shape of a dragon?
Yeah.
And then when I was watching it the second time for this, I paused it, took a picture, which I may, if I remember, share here. And I think that it is. And I don't know if that's, here's what I can't decide though. If in the show that is supposed to be some sort of symbolism that actually exists, or if that's just the creators of the show being like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Like just as a freeze frame thing. But as you've said 1,000,000 times about Game of Thrones, what do you say?
There's intent with everything.
Everything. This is one of the most intentional shows of all time.
Dragon in the sheets, literally 6 years from now, we might have a 30-second clip of an episode and it ties it to it.
For sure.
There's just intention with everything. And that's one of the things that makes George R.R. Martin
he's unbelievable.
Just literally unbelievable.
I listened to an interview with him a couple days ago with Jason Concepcion, who is the king of podcasts. And frankly, if you want to listen to a great House of the Dragon podcast, leave here and go listen to HBO's official podcast hosted by Jason Concepcion, because it's amazing. But he interviewed George R.R. Martin, and George R.R. Martin was actually talking about how he's like, I don't write allegorically. So what's happening to these characters is what happens to these characters. He goes, I'm not saying that some world events can't seep in. He's like, but I'm not doing any of that stuff with intent. Like when I'm writing, whatever the scene is for this, I'm not watching the Trump hearing and being like, oh, this is this. He's like, it's just, that's what happened to these characters. But I don't know sometimes, but the man is so good at character development that he really does look at everything. Whereas I've found myself when I'm writing short stories and stuff, I can write a 5-page story, and when I reread it, I'll have a plot hole in a 5-page story because I was just going with the flow.
Yeah.
That SOB, there is not one wasted word on the page. There's not one wasted scene in the show. And with this show, I don't know how much he had to do with seasons 7 and 8 of Game of Thrones. I know they were past the books, so I don't know if anything, but you can definitely tell already with this pilot that he's had a really big hand in it.
Oh, yes, big hand. It was phenomenal. I thought it was just, and one thing I've seen, which I just think this is crazy. We've talked about this before, especially Disney Pixar movies. Easter eggs, literally, anytime I see an Easter egg in a movie, it hits so hard for me.
Best.
Even if it's just the dumbest little thing, I think it's so cool. Well, there were some Easter eggs in this episode, and we have these just Game of Thrones purists.
The Joe Schmoes from Michigan.
Yeah. Just being annoyed with that, and I'm like, how are you annoyed that there's a Rickon Stark?
He exists.
He
exists. This is the world. This is the world that has been built. Rickon Stark was their great grandfather or whatever.
Yeah,
that would be him.
Yeah, exactly.
If they say multiple times in Game of Thrones, the Starks have ran Winterfell for however many years. Yeah. So what do you want, to just retcon that whole thing because it might be weird if we bring Rickon Stark in here? I thought it was awesome.
And I thought it was awesome, and like I said, about intention, it really just shows how there's these extensive family trees for all of these houses.
Yeah, right.
It is.
I thought you were going to bring one over here. Next episode, we're going to have a family tree.
I do have to be a mom.
Yeah, that's true, but she'll... Yeah, I'm just saying, she'll sit there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Next time, folks.
Yeah.
Next time.
Family tree.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah. So we set up the first act of the show, which is obviously the power struggle between Damon and wanting to be the heir, and of course the princess who's like definitely never going to be the heir. And now we've announced the pregnancy, and now we're on to the tournament. What are your thoughts on the tournament?
Damon is just like out there wilding.
How do you feel about him?
I'm looking at him through the Jaime lens.
Yeah.
Where I think that he's really misunderstood. Bringing it back to Game of Thrones. Jaime literally killed the king to protect his dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
To protect his dad, Tyrion. No, I'm sorry, not Tyrion. Tywin. And Tywin's like, Kingslayer. Like.
When he threw Bran out of the thing, I'm like, bad guy. But before that, when his only crime...
Loving his family.
Which is my favorite quote from him was, he goes, if I'd have stabbed him in the front, would it have been better? And it's like, no, look, who cares how he killed the guy?
I just feel like Damon has that chip on his shoulder that is very similar to Jaime. I mean, and I feel like his role in the show is for us to compare him to Jaime, I believe.
100%. And I wanted to ask you this because, like, I normally never have a woman's perspective, and this is, like, going to sound like a very shallow male sexist question, but I'm just curious. Do you think, first off, let me say this. Matt Smith is a very handsome man. Somebody on Twitter had the perfect way to describe Matt Smith, which they said, Matt Smith is a really handsome man, but not in a way that doesn't completely rule out incest, which is why he's perfect for these, and like to play King Philip. Because like, if Matt Smith is good looking, but if someone told you his parents were cousins, you'd be like, I can see that.
Yeah.
So, but again, he's a handsome man. I do not think that he's as handsome as the fella who played Jaime.
No.
Right. So do you think, at least on a subconscious level, that there's no way as many people are going to feel as, what's the word?
Attracted?
Yes, not attracted. Let them get away with...
make excuses.
Make excuses.
Yeah.
God, I'm stupid.
Yeah. I don't think that people are going to be able to...
Like, you won't let him get away with as much stuff because he's not as good looking.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is how it will be. Because Jaime just...
He's so good looking.
Conventionally good looking.
He's one of the best looking people I've ever seen.
He was so conventionally good looking that his first name was just someone we went to high school with.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like Viserys.
Yeah.
You know, all these weird names, and they just... Jaime,
right. You all know that guy.
Yeah,
that
Jaime.
could have been intentional.
Yeah.
That's funny. I never thought about that. He really is the only one in the whole lore of the show that has a name that I've even heard before.
Yeah.
Like nobody, I mean, Bran, maybe. But I mean, I actually don't know a Bran, but I can see that.
Yeah.
Like short for Brandon or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. Jaime had the most, and maybe that was a way to make him more like, you want to be able to put anyone here and be, you know, sort of like why Spider-Man wears a mask. We can all envision ourselves as that. So granted, dude, nobody from here except for Zach Deboard could imagine them. And y'all don't know him. He's just a very handsome hunk of a man that he is. Is he not the best looking dude you've ever seen? That's not your husband? You don't have to.
He looks good.
Yeah. So so we were talking about the tournament. He's in the tournament, and I was listening to a couple people talk about another parallel here is that Matt Smith, Damon. I keep wanting Matt. I'm a Doctor Who fan, as you can see. That's why I'm on the t-shirt.
Yeah. I've never watched Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's not really your now, I would love nothing more than for you to get into it, especially to do something like this about it.
I just know him from The Crown.
But it's definitely not. I know all the things you're into, Outlander, Downton Abbey. I mean, it is straight up.
Oh, and there's an Outlander tie-in as well.
Oh, really? And by the way, if this show is successful, we'll end up doing a rewatch of Outlander. Like, don't you worry.
You ain't got to tell me.
Yeah, right.
Well, no, there was an Outlander tie-in, Sir Harold, from the beginning. You know, whenever Ramiria.
Ramiria. Ramiria. That sounds like an STD.
Is it Ramiria? Is her name Ramiria?
I think it's Ramiria.
Okay, yeah. But scene where she comes off the dragon, you know, the very beginning of the episode, Sir Harold, you know, like her like personal guard, that was Dougal off Outlander.
Oh, Dougal.
Yes.
I don't know
and
Dougal.
Like, you know, you love to hate him, hated to love him. So it was cool seeing him on screen. And I also love that they were like, you know what? This Scottish accent does not does not exist in the realm, but we're rolling with it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
like Bill Burr came into Star Wars, and now the Boston accent is just in Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, cool. Okay, guys. We're idiots. We've just literally been calling the main character of the show Rhaenyra, and her name is Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra. So, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, through the magic of editing, you didn't even know that we left, but we did because we felt so bad that we were. It's only one episode in, for the love of God.
Yeah.
I can't keep up. Like, also,
I can't know everything all the time.
Well, also, here's the thing that you have to forgive yourself for. In real life, we know, like, let's say we know 100 people. 40 of them have the same name. Their name's Dave.
Yeah.
Well, in this world, not only do they all have names that we've never even heard of, they're all different. I mean, you've got, dude, when I first started watching Game of Thrones, Tywin and Tyrion, I could not get them straight. You've already done it today?
I've already done it.
Yeah.
I did it in the podcast.
It's just going to happen, and we're country as cornbread and stupid as crap. How good have I done not cursing, by the way? Or have I cursed?
No, you haven't cursed. You've done good.
She's a mother, and not that we would want her child to ever see this, but in the event that she does, we want to do something that she can be proud of. So I'm trying to be clean for the first time in my life. So back to House of the Dragon.
Back to House of the Dragon. There's just one thing, and I almost told you this earlier, but, wanted your reaction on the podcast. And literally, there might just be one thing that people comment and say, no, because of this, like, you're an idiot, you're dumb.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time.
All right. Song, Ice, and Fire. They're talking about the dream. And he said that it's a secret passed down to each heir.
Each Targaryen.
Yeah, just the heir, though. Not Targaryen, just the heir. Which I don't know how many it goes back, like how many years this goes back. But think about this. It goes from heir to heir. Go to Game of Thrones. Mad King, his heir is Rhaegar.
Right.
He gets killed in the Battle of the Trident. So, technically, if you're going by, the actual
heir to
rules
heir.
of succession, Viserys, new Viserys, Game of Thrones Viserys, he's the heir. But did Rhaegar tell him the secret?
Ooh.
So
that's a great question.
Daenerys, she didn't know the secret.
Right.
But Viserys wasn't going to tell Daenerys the secret. He said he claimed the Iron Throne. He had the most claim to it.
Right.
He's not going to tell Daenerys that secret.
Right.
So did the secret die with Rhaegar in the Battle of the Trident whenever Robert Baratheon just slayed him?
That's a great fan theory. And again, y'all comment below and tell us how wrong we are to posit such a thing. But the way I look at all the Targaryen stuff and this is just me, this is outside regular world Corey putting my own, I'll bleep it, on the Westeros world. When they have all these prophecies and like Nostradamus and all this stuff, I'm like, well, yeah, if someone says one day this will happen, within 500 years, I'm sure that it will. And it's like, were you really a prophet, or did you just say, hey, this thing is going to happen, and then, shake the bag and the watch gets made or whatever? Yeah. So I don't know, but like, that's interesting. And I guarantee you this, whether or not that's true or not has crossed George R.R. Martin's mind. Yeah,
everything has. Yeah. Everything has. But one other cool thing, this is so cool. So cool. Everyone knows Game of Thrones. To kill a Night Walker, you need Valyrian steel.
Wasn't there another way too? It was just Valyrian steel.
Could
you burn them?
Vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, okay. King Viserys.
Vibes.
He is carrying, in the first episode, House of Dragon, he is carrying the sword that later on, 170-something years later, Arya kills the Night King with. The same one. That's so cool. Also, side note, it's the same sword that the assassination attempt on Bran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they come into his room at night, and Catherine Tully is Catherine Tully, Catelyn
Catelyn.
See, good Lord.
Yeah,
I guess
because you know what? It's not a real name.
Well, Catelyn is at least kind of close.
Because she went by Cat.
Yeah, right. And like Catelyn, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, like we're doing really good here.
Yeah. That, to me, that was just, goes back to the beginning of the episode. The intent, it's so cool.
A sword, by the way, is pretty much the only weapon that stays the same regardless of whether it's passed down a lot. Because like if you get a sword, like my great-great-great-grandpa's sword, you sharpen it up and it's the same sword that he used to use. If you're like, I'm going to shoot you with my grandpa's 300-year-old gun, I'm like, yeah, try. You're going to miss. Like they suck. You know what I'm saying? So like only in swords does that sort of like family heirloom weapon even work.
Yeah, like it could be 1,000 years old and like it's a sword.
Yeah, keep sharpening it.
Yeah,
Valerian still gets stronger.
Yeah, I think it was on a BuzzFeed article that I saw.
That's where I get all my news.
Yeah, I mean that news. I mean, you know, that's where I've gotten a lot of my I've seen little things and I've just, you know, kind of
gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You're a rabbit hole. If you ever have your own solo podcast, which I just feel like once the world gets introduced to you, you eventually will. I think should be, I'm sure there's one already called this, but Down the Rabbit Hole with Kirby Askew would be money. Because you were the most rabbit hole, like me and you we can't just watch a show together and make the mistake of being like, where do I know that person from? And before I know it, we're pausing the episode. You're getting on Wikipedia. You're going to a different Wikipedia from that. This is going to take you to IMDb. Then you're like, wait, the set designer on this was da-da-da-da. Did you know?
Yeah.
And then I've got the entire history from an hour of you searching.
Well, one thing I recommend our viewers doing, if...
They're called Airheads, by the way.
Oh, Airheads.
Yeah.
I recommend this, Airheads. On your smart device, download the Fandom app.
FANDOM?
Yes, and it is like a base, like a Wikipedia base.
I didn't know about this.
Yes, and you can choose any show you want. Like on my account, you know, I've got Game of Thrones, Downton Abbey, Outlander, all that.
I can do this?
Yeah, anyone.
Can we share like things?
Yeah,
We're not sponsored by Fandom, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if you can share things, but that's like how I've gotten into the family trees of, you know, people and stuff. I highly recommend going on there because like there's even like sections that's like, okay, no, this is straight up from the book. This section right here is what you've seen on the TV show.
Right.
And I really recommend it because, I mean, if you're really wanting to do a deep dive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, let's keep rolling here. We talked about the tournament. We are up to we're getting close, but we're up to the tournament. Obviously, is happening, and coinciding with the tournament happening, the Queen has begun her labors.
Yeah. I mean, serves Viserys right, man.
Are you right?
Yeah, I mean the whole just what he. Dirty. It was dirty, but we've already covered it.
Well, we're not. I mean, we covered it. We covered it a little bit. So they're at the tournament. He announces to everybody that she's begun her labors, and everybody cheers. And it does seem like so far on this show, like with Game of this is all stayed kind of in one family. This show, Game of Thrones, we saw everybody's house in the first couple episodes. You heard this person's opinion about this family and this family's opinion about this. This person loves the king, which is like, yeah, of course they do. They're a Lannister, but most everybody else hates the king. At least judging by the attitude of everybody at the tournament, he does seem like he's a fairly beloved king, which is like, to me, not what I expected when we were getting the Targaryen show. Because I look at the Targaryens the same way that I look at like Slytherin. It's like everyone in their family was just the worst all the time. And so to me, they're reigning with an iron fist, and it's terror. And of course, Matt Smith, Damon, has a little bit of that because I don't know if you want to talk about the cloaks and what he does when he goes through town. We didn't talk about that.
Something that confused me.
Okay.
You know, he went and which, you know, cool, killing the rapists, the murderers,
and he's sort of like Jaime in that sense too, is that he's like the Knight's Guard or whatever.
Yes, but my question was like, it's at least 10 p.m.
Yeah.
When he was out there, like, how'd he know?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have, like, carved R's or N's in their forehead. So, like, they were just like, murderer.
Yeah, right. You murdered and you raped. Like, and everybody was just like, well, it is the past. I sure did.
Yeah, I mean, like, how I was so confused. Because at first, when I first watched it, I thought they were just rounding them up. Yeah, like, I didn't know that there was, like, actual intent there. Then I watched it again, and I was like, wait. Like, they're killing the bad guys. And, I mean, they're making a spectacle of it, like... don't rape people.
Yeah, don't rape people. They cut his weenie.
Yeah,
his weenie. I'm being clean here. His ding dong.
Yeah,
And then the thief, they cut his hands off. And then what did the guy do? They cut his tongue out.
I don't know.
Said
smart
the king.
Mouth,
said the king don't hit or
something.
Yeah,
smart mouth.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's all I can think. Yeah,
he's talking about science.
Yeah, I was thrown off by that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
I mean, it was definitely, I guess, to me. Maybe it did seem a little bit forced, but it's there to show, hey, this guy is a take charge, no nonsense guy. And while the things here he is doing does seem evil, it's not like he's doing it to like just the subjects, like the average everyday peasant. Like, these people did a thing.
Yeah, they're not murdering a baby like Joffrey sent his peeps out to do.
Exactly. It's not like someone's dog bit him, and so he's like, let's kill the butcher's kid.
When I realized that, it made me feel better about Damon. It's just like I said at the beginning. I just thought they were just like, all right, dudes, let's party. We're going to go out and kill some people, and they just... kill people.
Right.
But, I mean,
But no, they were like, we know where some murderers and rapists are. Let's go cut their ding-dong off.
Yeah, and I just thought it was real convenient that they were all just
right there. Well,
yeah.
I guess murderers and rapers hang out together.
Yeah, I was gonna say birds of a feather.
Yeah, birds of a feather, like at 10 p.m., hey, do you rape? Because we're going to be down here at 10 p.m. doing some raping.
Hang out with garbage, you start to stink.
Yes, that is true. Granny used to say that all the time. So... The queen
Emma.
Queen. Oh yeah, there you go.
Normal name. I mean, they had to church it up with an A at the beginning.
Yeah, right.
Emma.
Yeah, Emma. Yeah, and of course, let's kill her.
Well, the Disney nerd in me is like, well, the maternal voice had to be gone.
Right, because that's what Disney does. The mother always is gone. Speaking of maternal voice, this is like, did you expect this show to start out with a narrator?
No, I didn't.
Because that was like a great plot device. Like, I don't know if they're going to keep doing it. Like in a pilot, it's really good because it gives you an excuse to do a lot of exposition that you can't really act out. It's like, well, we'll just have the narrator say the thing that happened. Much like, a lot of those devices work. Like, in the office, it's like, we'll just do an interview and they'll set the scene or whatever. So I thought that was interesting, and I can't decide if I want that to continue in the show. But
I don't want it to.
Okay. But to me though, I'm fine with like expositionary devices because I'm like, okay, yes, just tell me, and now you can go on, instead of like having to construct this entire scene that's otherwise not entertaining but is only informative. So anyways, you were talking about the maternal voice being gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important because obviously, like, we need her to struggle. We can't have her being like, Mommy, what do I do? And her be like, yeah, do this. And her like, okay. Like, I think it was technically necessary just to, add that little to the story. Didn't mean it didn't stink.
Well,
because this is a show that you just feel like you don't always just feel good. And I thought,
of course,
man, this is like a normal mom who just like tells her daughter she stinks and needs to take a bath.
Yeah, right. You smell like dragon.
Yeah, like that's just normal
in
mom
front of her
stuff.
friends.
Yeah, God. And then she goes literally.
Our mom would do that to you for sure.
1,000,000. And then she's just bearing the cup of the king, and he just in front of all the important men of Westeros, he's like, honey, you stink.
Yeah, right. You stink. Like, give me some more wine.
Literally, the secondhand embarrassment I had for the girl.
Yeah,
I felt for her.
No, for sure. She doesn't seem to care that she stank, though.
No.
She's got a little bit of that Arya in her. I've got some pep in my step. Like
I want to be like a knight.
Right. Everyone wants this for me because this is what I was born to do. I don't care. I want to ride stinky dragons and stank. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. All right. And so after, the queen dies, they have the funeral. huge moment. We got to hear her say Dracarys.
I know.
And that was just something that, like, all Game of Thrones peeps were like,
yeah, that was great.
Like, we were waiting.
I'm sure that Joe Schmo from Michigan was like, bleh.
Yeah, there were some people that, like, didn't like how she said it. And I'm just like, it's not the same actress.
I forgot.
Their voice isn't the same.
Right. I'm so stupid because, and I realized like 2 seconds after this, but when she first said Dracarys, I forgot that was the command to get the dragon.
It's not the dragon's
name. Right. And like, I was like Leonardo DiCaprio in the Hollywood, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was like, oh, I know, that's the same dragon. Look at that. God damn, he old, boy. He is old dragon. How long do dragons live? I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, right. That's the sit boy for fire breathing.
That is the sit boy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And breathe fire. And that's the, hey, burn our mom.
Yeah.
And the dragon was just like, that's what you want, boss.
Yeah. And very dramatic moment. And then, the king's upset naturally. And I'm sure a lot of it's guilt because he should feel guilty.
Yeah, right. I mean, she's dead because of him. And I don't want it to sound like I'm saying I'm glad that baby died, but
it was necessary for the story.
Of course, it was necessary for the story. And I was just like, yeah, bro, like you should have left. You should have let your wife live, and then it would be fine. And she could try again. Now, granted, I don't think she'd have tried again after this one.
And he seemed genuine, like he seemed okay with the fact that she didn't want to try again. Like,
yeah, he did.
I think he temporarily let the pressures get to him, and he made that decision. Which I've seen a lot of people say, oh, no, it was either the baby dies or both of them die. I took it as he had to choose.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was that, like, no, she could give birth to, the baby will eventually come out, but it's breached, so it'll suffocate.
Yes, yeah, that's the way I took it.
Because, like, if that's not, then the stakes aren't as high. If it's, hey, would you rather have both of them die or just one of them die? Oh, damn, hard decision.
Yeah.
No, it's the first. It's what you said.
Yeah,
because the Maester literally says you have to make an impossible decision. If it's let both die or let one live, that's not an impossible decision.
It's not.
Everyone makes that.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I think earlier, like when it seems like he's like, yeah, if you don't want to try again, that's fine. I think it's because right before that, he had said, it's a boy and I've never felt more strongly about anything. I think he was just like, well, we're not going to have this conversation.
So you don't think it was him just really being a caring husband? You just...
Maybe, but there was also like, again, he's gone on record as like, I'm having a boy. It's almost like he'd had one of those Targaryen dreams. Like, he did. He says that I have seen me put him on the throne and then put the crown on him and he watches what, like, I really do think that there's such a cocky family to a way that he's like, I had this vision, it's going to happen, therefore, like, whatever you say, that we're going to have a son.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do think he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Like, for a king.
For a king, yes.
Like,
and then you got his hand, Hightower, who, shady from...
Don't be a hand of the king.
Yeah. Statistics show it's not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, you can already tell he's shady. Literally, which we don't... I mean, I'm sure people that read the book know when his wife died.
Sure.
Viewers of the show don't. We know that it was recent. His lady wife. So he gets Alicent into the room, which I'm assuming that's his daughter. Alicent. Yeah. It couldn't just be Alice.
Played here masterfully by, I can't remember his name, but he was the field goal kicker and punter in The Replacements, and he's Dr. Kirk Connors in The Amazing Spider-Man. I wish I could remember his name, but I love this dude. You didn't realize that was him?
No.
Which in The Replacements, the dude that smokes the cigarettes?
No.
That's him. That's him.
I thought that was the guy from Notting Hill.
I don't know what that... It might be. I don't know. I know... That was Hugh Grant, right?
Yeah.
Right,
you made a good point for me not to read the YouTube comments.
What do you mean? Oh, right. Yeah.
What I just said, I just know I'm wrong.
Yeah, people are going to blow you up.
Yeah, just completely.
First off, I am wrong a lot, and so I get blown up for it in the YouTube comments, but like... The thing that will infuriate you the most is when people blow you up and you're right. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, no, I know for a fact that anyways, we won't tell. She ain't checking the comments. This is her first foray into the internet, so I've been coaching her on how to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just more about love and light.
Yeah, vibes.
Vibes. All day long. But Alicent, she comes in the room. Her daddy's like, listen, we miss your mom. Like, blah, blah, blah. But can't you see the king's hurting?
Yeah, right.
And like just
you want to throw a little of that something on it.
Yeah, I mean, so it tells her to put the mother's dress on to go comfort the king. In other words,
her dead mother.
Her dead mother. If it wasn't already obvious that he had goals,
right?
His intent was he's wanting to move up, and it's obvious that was. We're going to see some things.
Oh, yeah.
She seems like she's a sweet girl, but there's going to be sides that we see. And also, does she kind of look like a young Drew Barrymore to you?
Yes, and she kind of holds her mouth. That's not a diss, but Drew Barrymore kind of has that crooked smile.
I think that's why when we inevitably see her bad side, it's going to be weird for me because Drew Barrymore's just so
sweet, pure,
so sweet. I mean, every time we've never met, it's been great.
So she goes in there to comfort the king. She walks in, and he doesn't know. He doesn't.
He's just whittling.
It's not, and it's not like how maybe a Robert Baratheon would have been turned around in a swivel chair completely naked, been like, I've been expecting you. You know what I mean? Like
eating a chicken leg.
Yeah. Like he seemed to be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, are you?
And you could tell he addressed her like this is his daughter's friend.
Yeah,
like
it was very uncle vibes.
Yes, it was,
but not creepy uncle vibes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why begin the episode, I felt like comfortable with Viserys. Like he didn't seem like a creep. Like Game of Thrones has conditioned us to think like if anyone's related to anyone,
they're gonna bang them.
Yes,
yeah,
1,000,000%. So you could tell that he's caught off guard, by the situation. But yeah, he looked at her like, what's my daughter's friend coming in here for? Like,
And he's whittling and tell him about. So this was posited on the official Game of Thrones podcast.
Yes.
But y'all need, if you hadn't listened to that, tell them what they think he's whittling.
Definitely listen to that. So
tell them what they think he's whittling.
They think that he is whittling like the intro to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so he's sitting there on the table and he's like clearly building this city.
Yeah.
And it does look very much like the kind of sculpture that they do in the intro. And this is one of those things where regardless of if it's true or not, it's true to me. That is canon in my mind. He is whittling the intro. That is what this thing is.
I think she actually used the current canon. Yes.
Yeah, right.
1,000,000%. I just think that was so cool. I love just little theories like that.
He's whittling the thing. The girl comes in.
Girl comes in and he's like, "Sup?" What you doing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and she's just like, I'm coming in here to make you feel good or whatever. And you could tell he was just like, just very confused.
Is that your mom's dress?
Yeah, yeah. I remember Venereal wearing that 3 weeks ago.
God.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, so he's not with it, and I definitely expected, when he first came in, I'm like, yeah, but he's going to, drop his guard and be like, fine, I'm going to bang my...
I'm so glad that didn't happen.
So
because
glad.
It
would change everything.
We're going to end up not liking him.
Or he's going to die.
Yeah, you're...
Because, Ned Stark, we never got to a moment where we didn't like Ned Stark. We thought he was a bumbling idiot, but, he died
before... Well, the only thing that we possibly could think we didn't like about him was the fact that we thought that he, had a bastard child, Jon Snow, when turns out he literally was just protecting him. Think about how much hate he got from his wife.
Oh yeah.
And he
didn't. And he was Ned was as pure as they come.
As pure. That's why he didn't last.
Which I was about to say, which sometimes manifested itself into pure stupidity because the first time I watched the show, I didn't think, because I loved him. I love Sean Bean, the guy who plays him. Oh, yeah. So my blinders were on. But the second time I watched it through, I was like, what an idiot.
Well, that threw me off because I just literally thought he's name brand.
Yeah, right.
Everyone knows who he is.
Yes,
he's not getting killed off.
Right.
So when he got killed off, it was very... Wow, this show's going to
go there. It's going to go there.
So don't get comfortable with any characters from episode 1.
It's possible that there are people watching this and that watch the show that they're like, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I'm going to start with this, which would be interesting. I almost kind of feel jealous of those people that they're going to watch this and then they get to start Game of Thrones and go, oh my God, that's that. You know what I'm saying?
But those little Easter eggs, you wouldn't be able to... get, but I understand what you mean. And one little detail, we talked about this. The whole thing is you can't burn a dragon.
Right. Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about his wound.
Yeah, and the fact that the throne's literally like
cutting
rejecting
him. Yeah,
him.
right.
That, I mean,
like a plastic surgery. The throne's just like,
Yeah, a lot of symbolism there.
For sure.
A lot of symbolism there. And then, you know, he's got just a festering wound from it.
Right.
And which I'm assuming that's how he's going to die.
Yeah, for sure. Which is how Robert Baratheon died.
Well, Khal Drogo.
Yeah, right.
Literally just like hair.
A festering wound.
Yeah, I mean, his beard was down to the ground because he killed all these people, but that's how he died.
Right.
They talk about cauterizing his wound and how it was going to hurt.
Yeah.
Thought you can't burn a dragon.
Exactly. What's that all about?
Very, very confused about that. I mean, you know, Game of Thrones people, you remember Dany walking through the fire. She came out naked.
The dragon eggs.
Yes, I mean, just... What's the deal there?
Right. So let's talk about Matt Smith, Damon. Mm-hmm. So obviously the baby dies, and now he is, per his and everyone's thoughts, because he's a man, he's like, well, I'm the heir. Yeah. It's mine now.
It's presumed, yes.
It's mine now. My brother's got a festering wound. So he's in a brothel. This is one of my favorite scenes in all. Oh, this is comedy. Mm-hmm. This was the one moment of true levity. Mm-hmm. They're in the brothel, and he's about to make a speech because everybody's like, hey, this is your future king or whatever. And he starts to talk, and this dude is just mid-doggy style.
I know.
It's funny because when we were watching it, I didn't notice it. You pointed out, you go, that dude's mid-doggy style.
Yes, they were making whoopee.
They were making whoopee, and he says the now famous line to the heir for the day.
Yeah, he was, the kid Balon, or, you know, Caesarion
Targaryen
was the heir for the day.
Which he's first of his name, which he henceforth shall be known.
Yes, hopefully first and only of his name.
Yeah, right. So the king finds out about this.
Yeah, because Hightower, you know, and which... It was funny.
His little birds whispered to
Damon
him.
called him a "See you next Tuesday" earlier in the episode.
Is that the first time that word? No. The Hound used it. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot, which was great. He was the best. He was my favorite character. Yeah. Like, by a lot. He was my favorite. He was
the best.
The best.
But Damon, when he said, like, people mourn in their own ways, like, you feel like, oh, he's just being, you know, a butthole.
I don't.
But also,
I agree with it.
I agree. The second time I watched it, I agree with it. I think he's misunderstood, like Jamie is.
Now, me as a comedian, that line, I was like, no, I get this, because how many times as a comedian, me and some of my other comedian friends have been at a funeral and like have been called inappropriate by people and thinking that like you don't even care that they're dead. It's like we care so much that they're dead. And that's why we're sitting here making fun of them in the casket, because that's just how we do it.
How we cope.
That's how we do it.
When he's in the brothel and
like
you can tell
like when Dad had a heart attack, the first heart attack.
Yeah.
Rob called me, like we were talking. I said, Rob, my dad might have had a heart attack, and and I was freaking out. And Rob goes, okay, man, I'm so sorry. Let me know if you need anything. And if he dies, can I bang your mom? Like, finally. And I died laughing. You know, that's a very inappropriate thing to say, but that's how we grieve.
Yeah, everyone has their things.
Right.
Yeah.
So, no, I totally buy that. That doesn't immediately, to me, confirm to me that he's a bad person.
But when he was in the brothel and he was all just, you know, perturbed.
He did look genuinely perturbed.
Was he upset about the conversation he overheard?
Oh, right. That's actually a good call.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that he just, like, heard... You know, like you're in high school and you hear your friends talking about you. Like you're just like, you know, upset.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's a beautiful thing for the writers and or George R. R. Martin to have done, so that when we see him, we can't go, because if that conversation never happens, we go, look, he looks sad because of the kid. But that happens so everybody can go, which one is it?
It's probably a little bit of a mixture of both. I mean, unless you're just the worst. I mean, people don't just clap when a baby dies.
Of course not. Of course not. And not only now I'll tell you who didn't misunderstand, or maybe misunderstood it, but the king definitely took it the one way, and that was, my wife isn't even cold yet, and you're at a brothel toasting to her, toasting to my dead baby. By God, yada yada, reads him the rights, lets him know, like, yeah, you're my brother, but like, you don't come past here. This is now. And then we're getting towards the end of the episode when he names Princess Rhaenyra as his heir.
Is it Rhaenyra?
Oh, God. I'll voice over the right thing.
Okay.
Right? I won't. We're just going to have to sound off.
It's just everything sounds the same.
No, I know. And that is where we leave off with her, not coronation, but her, like, I guess his announcement of, like, this is going to be.
And do you think that he did that out of guilt for not seeing his daughter's potential, or out of, I'm just sticking it to Damon?
I mean, I think probably a mixture of both. I think it's like, I think he 100% knows to himself, if I had just done this to begin with, my wife's still alive. Like, if I'd have just been like, sure, a woman can do this, my wife would still be alive. But also, at the time, it's probably a mixture of, like, I want to stick it to him, and also, I'm not about to die, or he doesn't think he's about to die. For all we know, he's going to die in the next episode. But he's like,
he ain't lasting long.
He knows I can't just die and then have them go, oh, by the way, she was the heir, because people freak out. I got to tell them right now so they hear me say it, and so that everybody can get used to this, and so that we can start right now the wheels in motion of a peaceful succession. So, but in a show like this with characters like this, it's definitely, I'll show you. You think that you're going to be my heir? Nah. Yeah. And that's where we leave off on this episode. So in the next episode, I have to assume we're going to start seeing Matt Smith, Damon's true colors, whether he is misunderstood in the way that we think he is misunderstood, whether he is a Jaime season 1 or if he's a Jaime season 2 or Jaime season 3 or whatever. We're also about to see the princesses, once carefree, fun, dragon riding life, turn into what we saw happen to, Queen Elizabeth in The Crown, where it's like, hey, by the way, your dad's the king now, so now you're going to be this. And so things are a lot different for you. And I personally am excited to see it. I'm super excited about this show. I too give it 4.5 dragons. I was going to give it 5 until you said the thing you said. I was like, there really is only one joke in it. I need more humor. Yeah. And I hope I hope that was just a look. We had a lot to get to, and like it wasn't a funny episode. I don't know what to tell you.
I think that they really were paying attention to the fact that there were so many people upset with the finale Game of Thrones.
That they were like,
we need to give them some action, and we need to nail
it. No Starbucks cup in the back. Yeah. So this has been also the conclusion of our first episode of Little House of the Dragon. I've been Corey Ryan Forrester.
Kirby Askew.
I just threw it to you as if you've done podcasts before. And
Kirby Forrester Askew.
And as always, if you're just listening to this, you can also watch it at watchpoa.com. This is going to be on the Puttin On Airs podcast feed, where we would like you to like, review, subscribe, download, tell all your friends, and tell them friends to tell their friends, because we really think that you'd enjoy us. And we love y'all, and we'll see you next time. How was your first day? How was your first day of podcasting?
It was good.
You liked it?
I felt more comfortable than I thought I was gonna.
Okay, well, we'll see you next week.